What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Saturday, February 15th, 2025, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 1500 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Eastern Europe and from Iran. And I wanted to also update you guys on the situation with Chernobyl. But Zelensky warned yesterday, that's the president of Ukraine, that according to Ukrainian intelligence, Putin is planning to attack NATO within a year. And he's saying that Russia is planning to move 150,000 troops into Belarus this summer under the pretense of training and exercises. Okay, so that is very, very sketchy. If you remember, when Russia invaded Ukraine, that's exactly the same thing they did. They moved about 150,000 troops to the border of Ukraine, and they said, oh, we're just doing exercises. We can move our troops anywhere we want. We're not invading Ukraine. The West is hysterical. And sure enough, they ended up invading. So now Putin is doing the same thing with Belarus, moving 150,000 troops, okay, into Belarus. That is insane. Massive number of troops. We also have some major breaking news coming in from the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency. So the head of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi, is saying that Iran is seeking to sevenfold their production of 60% enriched uranium, enabling Iran to make 6 nuclear warheads in a very short period of time. Rafael Grossi, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, warned on Friday, February 14th, about the sharp increase in Iran's enriched uranium stockpile. He stressed that time is running out for reviving the JCPOA. The IAEA chief stated that Iran is in the process of increasing its monthly production of 60% enriched uranium by 7 times. He added that by the time the agency releases its quarterly report next month, that's in March, the Iranian regime's stockpile of 60% enriched uranium could reach 250 kilograms, so that's over 500 pounds of 60% enriched uranium. According to IAEA standards, this amount of uranium, if further enriched, would be sufficient to produce 6 nuclear warheads. Wow. Grossi warned that the international community must take this issue very seriously, emphasizing that time should not be wasted. He expressed hope that the Iranian regime would once again become a focal point of global attention. The IAEA Director General stated that he eagerly awaits the White House's appointment of a U.S. Special Envoy for Iran so that discussions and consultations on the next steps regarding the Iranian regime can begin. Grossi also noted that the IAEA remains in contact with the Trump administration. So this is extremely concerning, guys. The IAEA saying that Iran is going to increase their enriched uranium production by 7 times, and that they already have basically enough material to produce 6 nuclear warheads, guys. Okay, I told you Iran was going to do this, didn't I? I told you as soon as the polls started to show that Trump had a chance of beating Biden, that the Iranians were going to panic and supercharge their nuclear program, because they know that Trump has stated in the past that he would support strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. So this is very, very serious, guys. And remember, a couple of days ago, I reported to you guys that sources in both the Biden and Trump administration said that Israel is planning a strike on Iran this year, possibly in the next few months. So get prepared, guys. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. And I wanted to just update you guys on the situation with Chernobyl. So 2 nights ago, the Russians sent a drone to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant and it hit the new safe confinement. This is not the sarcophagus. The sarcophagus was the initial containment dome that the Soviets built, which is very weak and ineffective. And later on in 2016, they built this massive containment dome, and multiple European countries funded this. It cost billions of dollars, and look at the size of this hole. This is a huge hole. You can see these workers here, how small they are in comparison to this hole. But I want to read to you an update here. It has been a long time since so many firefighters and other emergency services have been working at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant as they have been over the past 24 hours after yesterday's strike by the GUNNR 2, which flew over Ukraine along with 133 others sent by Russia. An operational headquarters was established, headed by the head of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, Grigory Ishenko. Okay, so this was a GUNNR 2, so a Russian drone. That's how we know this was Russian. Okay, a Russian drone hit this containment dome. Okay, firefighters are still working on the roof of the dome, extinguishing the fire in the inner filling of the outer shell of the dome, but the work is significantly hampered by the sub-zero temperature, snowfall, and icing. The radiation level on the roof, which normally reaches 144 microsieverts per hour, is not helping either. So that's really high radiation, guys. 144 microsieverts per hour is a lot. Military vehicles with searchlights, which are normally used to search for drones in the sky, have been brought to the site so that work can also be carried out after dark. According to unspecified information, firefighters are to moisten the inner filling of the shell to prevent the fire from spreading to the rest of the shell. Okay, so it's not like this is just, a piece of sheet metal. Okay, they have like actual insulation, okay, that helps reduce the radiation. So it's like, imagine you have like a sandwich, and you have metal on top, metal on the bottom, and then in between you have this filling, which is what helps reduce the radiation and stop the radiation from getting out. Okay, so they're concerned that this insulation could catch fire and then it can burn underneath the sheet metal or whatever metal they have underneath the metal of the dome, and it will just spread and burn all the insulation, and then at that point you got to scrap the whole dome. Okay, so this is very serious. A lot of people were minimizing how serious this is, even though it's just one little hole. It's not little. First of all, you can see how big it is compared to these two guys standing here, but also the heat damaged a lot of that insulation, and it could potentially spread. So they're going to have to cut out a huge chunk of this dome and replace it now. So this is, not a small fix by any means. It was clarified, however, that the perforation damage caused by the drone had an area of 15 square meters, so that's going to be about 45 square feet, while the damage to the casing was as much as 200 meters squared. Also, the crane that was used to secure the radioactive ruins after the 1986 disaster was destroyed, so they destroyed some kind of crane in this attack. Unfortunately, there are more and more indications that patching up the hole after the explosion may not be the most difficult task on the list that engineers will now face. If the explosion and subsequent fire damaged the structural elements, it may turn out that the dome is not suitable for use without very serious and expensive repairs. Also, for the first time in history, consideration has been given to whether, in the event of extensive damage, it would not be necessary to move the structure to the construction site, as it was slid on rails in 2016, and carry out a general renovation. At the moment, this seems quite absurd. This year, preliminary preparatory work was supposed to begin for the dismantling of the old sarcophagus located inside of the dome. Okay, so the old sarcophagus is still underneath this dome, okay? And they were going to dismantle that because that one's on the verge of collapsing. And if it collapses, it could release more radiation. So they were going to very carefully take apart the Russian sarcophagus, which was basically a half-assed containment dome that the Soviets built in the aftermath of the Chernobyl kaboom in 1986. Okay, they were supposed to dismantle that and remove the material, and now they have to worry about this. So it's going to delay that work to dismantle the original half-assed containment dome that the Russians built. Okay, on the positive side, we know that there has been no release of radioactive dust into the atmosphere, although it was noted that there is such a risk. The concentration of cesium-137 around the power plant is standard for this region. Meanwhile, the IAEA is calling for maximum restraint in military activity around Ukrainian nuclear facilities, avoiding writing that the facility was hit by a Russian drone with a high explosive charge, even though the case is obvious. So this is very, very concerning, guys. Let me show you some more pictures here. So this is them working at night. You can see the spotlight here shining on this hole through the snow. You can see the workers up there, and look how tiny they are compared to that hole. That's a big hole, guys. Okay, that's huge. You know, that's like 25 feet across. Massive hole there. Okay, and then here's them shining the spotlight on the roof of the dome. Okay, so this isn't some kind of, big repair operation. It's literally some Ukrainian soldiers in the bed of a pickup truck shining a spotlight on this hole, and then they're just working there. It's not like some big operation like here in the U.S. where you would immediately have, multiple companies and hundreds of engineers. This is, it's Ukraine. It's not the U.S., so it's going to take them time to repair this. But the explosion could have damaged some of the structural elements, okay, which would be very serious. The heat can warp the metal and reduce the strength of the structural elements and cause the whole dome to collapse even. Okay, so they may have to repair this whole thing, and then that's going to delay the dismantling of the original sarcophagus. And last night we had a U.S. nuclear bomber fly into the U.K. It landed at RAF Fairford, so this could suggest that the U.S. is either getting ready for military operations in the Middle East to back up Israel if Israel decides to go after Hamas, or this could be for some patrols in the Baltic Sea or around Russia's borders, some deterrence patrols, show of force. And speaking of show of force, the U.S. Department of Defense is preparing to launch a Minuteman III ICBM next week from Vandenberg Space Force Base, and the missile is going to fly towards the Kwajalein Atoll. Okay, so what's going to be interesting about this test is if they use multiple warheads or just one. Okay, if they use multiple dummy warheads, that means that Trump is considering rearming the Minutemans. Okay, if you're not aware what the Minuteman missile is, the U.S. has what's known as a nuclear triad, which means we have missiles that can be delivered from land, sea, and air, and that ensures survivability of our nuclear deterrent. If one leg of the triad is attacked, There's other legs that can still be used in a retaliatory strike. The Minuteman III ICBMs are underground. They're in silos in North Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana. And we have 400 of them officially on combat deployment, 50 in reserve. We used to have 3 warheads per Minuteman, 330 kiloton blast yield each for a total of 1 megaton per Minuteman. But under the Obama administration, Obama signed the START treaty with Russia, and under the START treaty, we removed 2 out of the 3 warheads on each of the 400 Minuteman missiles. So we went from 1,200 warheads down to just 400 on the Minutemans. So a huge cut in our nuclear capabilities, and it'll be interesting to see if Trump rearms those Minutemans. He should rearm those Minutemans, and he should also put back some of our B-52s and B-1s on nuclear duty. Several of them were removed from nuclear duty under Obama. Also, Obama removed 4 Trident missiles per each of our 14 Ohio-class subs that carry the Trident missiles, and each Trident missile can carry up to 11 nuclear warheads. Okay, so that's hundreds more warheads that were removed from our subs. So it'll be interesting to see if there's multiple warheads on this Minuteman when they do this test. That's what I'm going to be looking out for. And during the Munich Security Conference yesterday, a U.S. congressional delegation presented Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky with a document requesting access to 50% of Ukraine's future mineral reserves. The proposal was made in the context of U.S. military support for Ukraine. President Zelensky declined to sign the new agreement, citing no opportunity to review the document and the absence of explicit security guarantees. So Zelensky refused to sign the deal on the spot when he was presented with the 50% of minerals for weapons deal by the Trump administration. Apparently, Zelensky said that he wants more time to look over the agreement before signing it, which, makes sense. He's going to have like a bunch of lawyers look at it. And Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, has announced the possibility of declaring a state of emergency in Germany in order to finance military support for Ukraine. We'll have to wait and see what happens with this peace deal, but my guess is there's probably not going to be a peace deal for several reasons. Number one, if the peace deal includes everything that Putin wants, Zelensky's not going to sign it. And if the peace deal includes everything that Zelensky wants and the U.S. wants, then Putin's not going to sign it, okay? So it's not going to happen. I'm telling you right now, there's not going to be a peace deal. I'll be very surprised if there is. And Zelensky said that Trump told him that he could call Trump at any time and gave him his personal phone number. He also said Ukraine will need to double the size of their army if no NATO membership is provided. And President Trump and the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer spoke yesterday by phone. During the call, it was agreed that Starmer would visit Trump in Washington, likely within the next 2 weeks. Okay? And President Macron of France spoke to President Zelensky by phone today. He welcomed President Trump's efforts, then reiterated that Ukrainian leaders must be involved in any peace negotiations and that Europe must learn to provide security for the future with more autonomy. And a 28-year-old U.S. citizen was detained at Moscow's Vnukovo airport after Russian authorities allegedly found food items containing cannabis derivatives in his luggage. So another U.S. citizen detained in Russia for bogus charges. Russia does that on purpose so they can use these American prisoners as leverage in negotiations. That's why Russia does that, okay? They're basically doing the same thing that Hamas did in Israel. They take hostages, they hold them, and then they demand things in return to exchange them or to release them, okay? And multiple drones targeted an oil refinery in Russia near the city of Volgograd. In the early hours of February 15th, Russian Telegram channels reported local residents reported hearing over 15 kabooms during a drone attack, according to the Telegram channel Shot. The reports claimed that the drones were headed towards an oil refinery in the Krasnoarmeysky district of the city. During the night, multiple drone attacks were reported throughout Russia. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed that 40 drones had been shot down over Volgograd, Kaluga, Saratov, and Rostov oblasts. There were also drone alerts in Moscow, and 7 airports in Russia had to shut down their air traffic temporarily. And the New York Times reports that the IRS is preparing to lay off thousands of employees as soon as next week. And the OpenAI board of directors unanimously rejected a $97 billion takeover offer submitted by Elon Musk. And the Department of Government Efficiency sent letters to the education departments of all 50 states calling on them to remove all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs within 14 days or they risk losing federal funding. And Kristi Noem has just fired over 400 employees from the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Justice has dismissed a federal corruption case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. And the biggest measles outbreak in decades has hit Texas and New Mexico. Measles cases in Texas have doubled to 48, with 3 more reported in New Mexico, making this the region's worst outbreak since 1996. And also wanted to update you guys on all of the U.S. Air Force activity off the coast of Mexico in Baja California. So we have this article from the War Zone, and they're claiming that this is all because of a China-focused combat exercise called Bamboo Eagle. Tankers flood airspace off the California coast for China-focused air combat exercise. The latest Bamboo Eagle exercise reflects plans for ever larger air combat exercises as part of preparations for a high-end fight with China. And here's a picture. Okay, so the U.S. is preparing for a massive confrontation in Asia. Okay, and what's interesting is that the Trump administration keeps talking about China, and yesterday Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance, while they were in Europe, said multiple times that Europe needs to be able to take care of themselves while the U.S. focuses on other parts of the world, and they specifically mentioned China. So what does the Trump administration know? They obviously know that China is preparing to make a big move on Taiwan soon, and so that's why they're trying to get NATO up to speed so NATO can take care of themselves while the U.S. deals with China, okay? Because NATO, right now as it stands, would not be able to deal with Russia by themselves. They would need the U.S. to help them. And if China attacks Taiwan, if Iran attacks Israel, and Russia attacks Europe, NATO would be overwhelmed, okay? And here we have a video of J.D. Vance with Zelensky, and also here is Marco Rubio and Keith Kellogg. Let me play this for you.
We're, of course, happy to welcome the Ukrainian delegation led by President Zelensky. We had a number of fruitful conversations, a number of things for us to follow up and work on. And fundamentally, the goal is, as President Trump outlined it, we want the war to come to a close. We want the killing to stop, but we want to achieve a durable, lasting peace, not the kind of peace that's going to have Eastern Europe in conflict just a couple years down the road. So we had a number of good conversations about how.
So that's the key right here. This is the key.
A durable, lasting peace, not the kind of peace that's going to have Eastern Europe in conflict just a couple years down the road. So we had a number of good conversations about how we might accomplish that together, and certainly we'll have many more in the days, weeks, and months to come.
So very, very interesting. And here we have a post from Zelensky, and he said, "I had a good meeting with Vice President Vance. I am grateful to him and his entire team for the discussion with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Keith Kellogg also taking part. Our teams will continue to work on the document. We addressed many key issues and look forward to welcoming General Kellogg to Ukraine for further meetings and a deeper assessment of the situation on the ground. We are ready to move as quickly as possible towards a real and guaranteed peace. We deeply value President Trump's determination, which can help stop the war and secure justice and security guarantees for Ukraine. So Zelensky showing a lot of gratitude for the Trump team visiting Munich and meeting with him. So we'll see what happens. There were a bunch of Russian doomsday planes and VIP planes that left Moscow this morning. And we also had a Latvian border guard helicopter patrolling the border with Belarus. And then here we have a picture of Pete Hegseth going for a morning run with some U.S. Army soldiers stationed in Poland. He visited Poland. He spent like 1 or 2 days there, and he said a lot of good things about Poland. He called Poland a model ally for the U.S. and said that support for Poland would never stop because Poland is a frontline country for NATO. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with more breaking news. Check out my app. It's available for free in the Google Play Store. It's available just for Android right now. We are working on an Apple version in the coming weeks. Hopefully that'll be ready. But this app allows me to send out notifications when there's emergencies or if I'm just posting news updates. This way you're not reliant on YouTube, because a lot of people complain that they don't get notifications from YouTube or the notifications are delayed by a while. So if you get the app, I'll be able to send you notifications directly to your phone and you'll never miss anything. So until the next time, happy Valentine's Day. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by Patriot Supply. Guys, Patriot Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to go to preparewithnYprepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. They're selling their 3-month emergency food supply for just $600, so that's $100 off the normal price. And this is 3 months of food at 2,000 calories per day, has a shelf life of up to 25 years, and all of this is packed into 6 rugged water-resistant buckets, and free shipping is included. And they're also offering a disaster replacement warranty, so if your food supply gets destroyed by a natural disaster, they'll replace it for you with no charge. And they also will provide you with free survival books and information, including a natural disaster field guide, a survival Bible digital copy. So use the link preparewithnYprepper.com to get $100 off the Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply, and the link is in the description below this video.